Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The Nigeria-Benin Republic border, which constitutes the most important point on the West African transnational highway, remains closed on the orders of President Muhammadu Buhari of Nigeria. The official reason for the closure is the need to check the menace of cross-border smuggling of rice into Nigeria. Reactions to this move by the president have been mixed. The Rice Producers Association of Nigeria is being reported in today's papers as saying that the closure would boost local rice production. But most of the reaction have been a condemnation of what some analysts call, in quotes, punishing the innocent with the guilty. There is a view that this blanket action has been having a negative effect on other aspects of the country's legitimate microeconomy. For further analysis on this, we've been joined by Babatunde Ruwase, President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Welcome to the program, sir. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning to Mr. Ruwase. Good to have you.
Yes,
thank you. Well, what do you think of this move by the federal government to just close down the Benin border without prior notice and apparently without prior cooperation or consultation with Benin Republic, and then just lumping, to quote what Tundun said, the innocent with the guilty? Do you think this is a good move, or it could have been handled differently? Whatever explanation they may have given, either about rice smuggling or about giving the security agencies an opportunity to work out a strategy.
Yeah, I think, thank you for having me. It's actually a very wrong move, and it's not the first time we shall be going to this route. We've closed borders in the past, and of course, it takes a lot of toil on the innocent, like we have said, because a lot of people doing legitimate businesses are caught in the in this trap of they are not able to move their goods from one end to the other. It's quite unfortunate that we are doing the same thing over and over again, and we expect a different result. Rice smuggling. Rice was banned. Like most things, what you find is the government takes action without having the statistics. Be sure that we have the capacity. This rice that is being imported and being smuggled, bad enough, is being consumed by Nigerians. You produce before you sell. So if there is a shortage within production and what is available in the market, of course, there will be people who will definitely do whatever they have to do. Economy does not respect emotions or sentiment. It's the reality that is respect. So we have deficit within local production and the demand. How do we do this? Let the rice come in, and you can put a tariff to control that shortage and encourage local producers to produce. But what you have done right now is actually counterproductive. Yes, a lot of things is happening along the border. We are not even talking of a petroleum product that goes across the border, because we are sort of subsidizing fuel consumption in the sub-region. A lot of money is being lost there. So if you look at how much we could save by doing the right thing, what do you do to that one? Remove the subsidy, and let's have a price that is not, that does not allow you to smuggle and still be profitable going across the border. But because your fuel is cheap, people smuggle a lot across the border. So we are doing a wrong thing, and it's very unfortunate, and it's counterproductive. It's going to be a loss situation for both sides at the end of the day.
So the government is right now trying to treat the symptoms without looking at the root causes.
Absolutely. There is need for more supply of rice for Nigerians, and that's why those rice is coming in. Production is far, far below demand, like we do in most things. Government will just come and put a blanket ban on things that we have the local capacity. But if we don't have the local capacity, of course, people will have a way of getting their way around it. And if you close the borders, most of the people who do this business are very rich people. They are well-rooted. It's not those who go by the small tracks that we are talking of. It's not rice that you take by Okada. How many can you put in Okada? They come in containers, they come in trailers, and they drive through our road all the way from Itseme or whatever place, several kilometers to get to the market where they are consumed. Government is not able to track them. There are ways of tracking such things. there are ways of arresting those who might get involved in this. It's deep-rooted. So a container load of rice is not something that a small market man or woman would be able to bring in. It must be somebody who has this. So why is government not able to clamp down on these people? And like I said, it's not even only clamping down, because if the profit is huge, people will take the risk. Let rice come, if we have a deficit in supply, put tariff that will prevent people from bringing. So it comes to the normal borders. People will pay more for imported rice, and the local rice will be cheaper, and you can build capacity. Then the ordinary farmer will now see that there's a gap, a big gap between what, if I go into rice production, I will make so much profit, because what comes in is more expensive than what we have produced locally. And then that might come as an incentive to people to get into it. But you cannot do it by fiat. You cannot do it by saying things should not come. It will find its way in. So that's what I feel about the situation.
Interesting. Now, with the new Minister as well of Trade and Investment, I'd like to ask you what sorts of policies we need to be looking for in terms of trade and investments in Nigeria right now. Do we see ourselves becoming a major producer of anything in the next 4 years? What's your foresights going forward?
Well, if the government has been trying to do a lot of things that would encourage production, that will encourage investment. But within government's intention and what is on ground, there's a big gap. We must create an enabling environment that will encourage an investor to bring in his money and make sure that there will be no policy shift. And you must consult with those who have investment in it that will make people to come in. Like this one that we have now, the sudden closure of the borders is not a good signal to an investor. The first circular we read said they were going to have a drill. A drill is not something permanent. It's something you come in, maybe you close, you want to study what happens, how it will affect the normal production. But all of a sudden, you now have a situation where it is shut down. And then, of course, there is this idea of they also open at a particular time, so it encourages corruption. A lot of people will make a lot of money out of this thing. So we must have policy stability. We must be very clear about the rules of the game. And that gives the investor some confidence. Of course, we have all these infrastructural deficits that we have, which we must address. It must be addressed by government. A lot of it cannot be done only by government. There must be confidence of the private sector to come into some of these deficits. You talk of roads. I mean, there is no way the federal government, for instance, can have enough resources to construct roads. And it's not only constructing roads, we must be able to maintain the road so that you don't construct and it goes bad before you think of it. There must be something in place that guarantees permanent maintenance of the road. How do you do that? People have to pay users charge. You have toll gates. Somebody can construct the road. You allow him to collect toll. He maintains the road. But what we are doing now is to construct the road, and just before we finish, you have a situation where the road has gone bad when you are completing the other end. And it's because we also don't have this axle policy. We have it, but we don't enforce it. Tollway bridges must be there. You have a certain weight that any load is constructed to carry. But if you don't have the way bridge, you don't know whether you are actually abusing the road that you are talking about, and the road will go bad. So we need to go back and look at, we have always set ourselves certain objectives. We should go back and see why we have not been able to attain those objectives. It's not that we lack ideas. We have all those ideas. But we should go back and check. Yes, we said we are supposed to be at this place. Why have we not gotten there? Not repeating the same thing, we are going to get there, and we are not looking at why we have not been able to achieve it.
Well, trade and investment was one of the major areas of focus for President Buhari during this ongoing Tokyo International Conference for African Development. And he was telling the Japanese to come and invest in Nigeria. And there's also the idea of a Nigeria-Japan Trade Facilitation Council. But one point that came up in the course of that interaction was, somebody pointing out that, look, unless we address the challenge of security in Nigeria, investors will not want to come here. But there's also the other view that in spite of all the security crisis that we have, that in fact we have seen, growth in foreign direct investment at specific times in Nigeria. I mean, as someone who is the president of a Chamber of Trade and Industry, Commerce and Industry, what actually is the reality? What have you seen? Is security really much of a threat to foreign investment or trade?
Yes, security could be a threat. But usually, to a businessman, security is not much of a threat than government policies that you cannot predict. Because the more the security situation, the more the profit you make. Those who can go in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, those who can go in there. I mean, people make money if you have a war-torn area, you have suppliers who supply things into those areas. And what you sell at $1, for instance, you could sell for $3. So the businessman, he could get around security. But instability in government policy is more damaging. Not being able to predict what will happen the next time is more damaging. If I'm coming to a country where I know I have to organize security, you know what they do in oil companies? They spend a lot of money in oil companies on security. You can predict that, okay, these are the problems that I have as a businessman. But the damage that we have through instability, unpredictable government policies is even more damaging than the security. That's not to say that we should not take care of security. Where do you have security in the world? You have security threat anywhere. It can prop up where you think is most secure. You could have some sort of security challenges. You, as a businessman, you can deal with that one. But in being able to predict the policies, not being able to know what the government is going to come to that will affect your investment is even more damaging than the security threat.
Such as this arbitrary closures of the
border.
Yes,
I mean, what do? You want to move your goods from one point to the other. You have all your papers, but because it's been short in trying to prevent people from smuggling things in, you are caught in the net.
We're about to take a short break now, but I want to ask you a question that you can take when we come back about the informal sector, which is who is really being affected by this closure. How can the government organize and harness it as opposed to attacking it in this fashion? So we'll just take a short break and then we'll be back. Oh, we still have a bit of time. So can you start to answer the question? You have a few seconds before we have to go on a break.
Yeah,
with regards to the informal sector.
The informal sector, the problem of the informal sector are finances and the infrastructure, the key that we have. The informal sector is not able to access finance. Government tries to provide.
Sorry, so on that note, we'll take a break and then we'll be back. Please hold that thought. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still with Babatunde Ruwase, President of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So before we went on that break, you were starting to tell us how the government should organize and harness the informal sector.
Well, the informal sector actually is the sector that can provide a lot of employment because they engage a lot of people. But the problem, apart from the infrastructural challenge that we have generally, they have is lack of access to funding. That affordable funding. Government comes up with initiatives of providing some funding for this sector, but they cannot access them because the banks are required to, for instance, give guarantee, which they are not ready to give. Most times, they may not have the sort of security requirement that the banks will ask for. Yes, government is trying to do something where you can collateralize your assets as security for it. But the sector needs funding so that they can access single-digit funding from government. Government has started to say, banks, go do 60% of your deposit. But we all know that there's no cheap fund in Nigeria. This fund we are talking of are funds of depositors who would be looking at double-digit interest returns. Double-digit because the inflationary trend that we have is double-digit. Nobody wants to lose value when you put money in anything. So except government now comes with this intervention fund that is single-digit, subsidize that. That's what we are saying about even subsidy. You can subsidize production instead of subsidizing consumption. Consumption is this one that we're... So government can subsidize to promote this sector of the economy and make this fund easily accessible
Isn't
to
that part
them.
of the responsibility of the Bank of Industry?
Yes, it's part of their responsibility. But the fund that comes from industry, they may ask the banks to go and get some guarantee from their banks, and the banks are not ready to give such guarantees because to them, they say it comes as guarantee. They can only earn maybe 1% during the lifespan of a facility, which could be up to 5 years or 7 years. The bank gets only 1%. It's an off-the-balance sheet transaction for them. So what they are asking for is, okay, even if you are giving at 9%, they want to have a share so that they can earn something in the lifespan of this facility. So the small businesses cannot even access that. One, they say they don't have the right collateral, which they are trying to overcome, but they are also cannot, the bank cannot give them the guarantee that they are asking for. So government has to actually address this sector by providing funding. Funding is actually the major problem we have. Of course, if you talk of infrastructure, it's affecting everybody. But the funding, they need to have access to this one that can enable them to achieve their set objectives.
That's a great point you made. In a situation like this, how long can we expect the border to be closed for? And then also in light of the recent Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement that we have just signed on to, and also to do with the fact that we're an ECOWAS country like our neighboring country that we've now put up a border with, or closed a border to rather, sorry. How does that also play out? Does that contradict anything? Or is that a normal situation? Is that allowed and is that acceptable?
It should be open like yesterday. Because what we are looking at is we have also forgotten that we also export things to other parts of West Africa. So we are doing a lot of damage to ourselves by closing that border. The issue is not the closure of the border. Like I said, those who are involved in this business, you are talking of several billion naira business. Government should be able to do the customs. It used to be called a preventive service in those days. They should be able to prevent. They should be able to use intelligence to get at those who are doing this. But like I also said, it's not a law that we have this deficit within the production of rice and the demand. So government should allow rice to come through the normal border and put tariff on it that will make it very, very expensive and make our locally produced rice competitive. And government should also patronize locally made goods. Our government does not promote that. When they want to buy cars, they should buy only made in Nigerian cars.
Do we have made in Nigeria cars?
Yes,
even assembled, yes, assembled cars.
Made and assembled.
Innocent is making vehicle. Innocent is making, let's see that sort of vehicle only on the convoy of government.
But to go back to this closure of the Benin border, the federal government has said the closure will last for 28 days. And it's been on now for about 9 or 10 days. But, you know, I get your point that they should open it. Now, but what kind of relief can the affected persons get? Persons who have been innocent, who are innocent, who have not done any wrong, and who have had their lives and businesses disrupted. One fellow wanted to go and marry a wife in Ghana. Another one wanted to join his new wife in Togo. I mean, so many examples like that. Not just trade, lives also affected. Can these persons, for example, can they get any relief? Can they, for example, sue government, or they are helpless? And if they are helpless, can the Chamber of Commerce, or similar groups speak up for them?
Yeah, that's
just that.
That's exactly what I'm doing now. That is counterproductive. It does not help any situation. It's a waste of time, and it will promote corruption, because people will still find their way around it. People will still find their. It will just raise the stake. People will still find their way if they are desperate to do whatever they want to do. So it's counterproductive. It should not be done in the first instance. It's not the first time we are closing our borders, but it has not done us any good, and it's not going to do us any good, even at this time.
Any possible reliefs?
From government?
Those affected, the people are affected. Can they make certain demands on government? Can they go to court? Can they assert their rights?
Unfortunately, I'm not a lawyer, but from experience, if you go to court against government, you never get any relief. It has been mentioned that a lot of cases that have even been decided against the government, people have not been able to get compensated. It's not easy. So what we can do is advocacy to ask government, make them see reason why we should open these borders and apply other methods. Look at what we have done in the past. Look at what we have gotten out of just closing the borders. look at what exactly the problems are. If it is rice, there is rightly a deficit in rice production. We should allow rice to come in whilst we are trying to build local capacity. But coming for relief, even the ordinary man that you are talking about, I'm not too sure whether he can afford to even go the hog, because if you win at one level, you go to the next level, and you go to the next level, and when you get justice, you are not even able to reap the benefit of what you are talking about.
So what are your thoughts on the CBN, the presidential directive for CBN to ban forex for food imports?
That also is something that, when you don't base things on statistics and you take a decision based on just fiat because you want to political thing, it doesn't make any sense. That, yes, government is saying there shouldn't be any access to forex, but I don't think it's the right thing to do. We need to see what we are looking at. Do we have the capacity? We have just talking of rice now. Rice comes into this country. They are not wasted. They are not thrown into the ocean. They are consumed by Nigerians. So it's not something that should have been done the way it has been done. We should look at, see of what benefit this will be. It is to the economy, and whether, because some companies actually have some of these things they call food as their input to make final production. Those ones may be out of business, or these things will become very, very expensive, and it will affect the ordinary Nigerian. If we think we don't have money, there are other ways we can look at. People have been talking of cost of governance, for instance. It's so expensive. These are things that we should first chop off and see whether, before we now go to basic things. You eat food anyway. Food is not, people need to eat food. You could tamper with some other things. You can tell people, okay, you don't ride a car below, above, so. You don't even ride a car. You can use the horse to move around. But if you have to eat, you have to eat. These are food that is being consumed by Nigerians. And like I said, if the federal government, the government at different levels, decide to patronize made in Nigerian goods, made in Nigerian food, made in Nigeria, the other people will be out of business if you have the capacity.
Can we expect inflation in general food items due to this closure?
Oh, certainly yes, because when you have scarcity...
To what extent as well?
It depends on how long. Because if it's long enough, I mean, it's not only rice that comes from across the border.
They said 28 days.
We have pineapples coming from across the border. We have even gari and some other things coming from Benin. All this will affect, and before long, in 28 days, I can't see us continuing for 28 days. I can't see it. It's never happened.
We have chambers of commerce. We have Manufacturing Association of Nigeria. We have a whole range of stakeholders around the issue of manufacturing, business, trade, commerce. What's the level from your experience of synergy between these stakeholders and the Nigerian government? Or is it the case from your experience that oftentimes the Nigerian government takes chambers of commerce and associations just for granted, only to remember later, as we had in the case of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement issue and how that was managed, only to remember later that those stakeholders should be consulted?
Yes, we have consultation with government, but I think it is not even only a Nigerian thing. There is no governance and economy or business. The government takes that as a custodian of all that. Unlike in other areas where when the government is going, when the political heads are going to do politics, the economic people are meeting. I mean, if you look at some summits outside Nigeria, outside Africa, before the political leaders meet, the business people will have met. And then they will have known the direction, the requirements of the business, so that politics can meet business. But in Nigeria, because we have all residing in government, it's very difficult. Government takes business for granted. But this government had actually created where we meet quarterly to discuss political issues as it affects our businesses, like the Business Enabling Council that was created by this government. But the regulators, the agencies, don't sort of give the impression that they are at same level, thinking wavelength with government. And that's what we have been finding. Regulation here at times is about revenue generation, which may not be good for business. So the government and the regulatory authorities should actually take businesses seriously. They should listen to, or else there should be consultation before government throws out any policy decision. But because most decisions too are political in nature, government may take decisions that are not in the interest of the people, but because politically it is right, it takes that decision. Because we have been told once that the wisdom in the boardroom may not be the same thing in politics.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Ruwase. We've enjoyed our
Yeah.
conversation with you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
coming.
Thank you.